Families of Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza say the plan by the UK and other European countries to recognise a Palestinian state validates terrorism.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine.
Britain, under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, has declared its intention to recognise Palestine by September 2025, unless Israel complies with a ceasefire, stops annexations and allows UN humanitarian aid into Gaza. This shift aligns UK policy with recent moves from France and grows from mounting pressure amid Gaza's worsening famine and stalled peace process. Now, let's take a look at what's being said by you-know-who, the press. Right, before we can get on with this, I've got to have a serious word with our producer because this opens so many gates and divides so many people. I just need to make a few things clear. Right, I've thought about this long and hard, I really have, and it is such a complicated issue that you need the brain of a small planet to even start dissecting the little bits apart. Understand me when I say that in the eyes of many people, if you support Palestine openly, you will be supporting Hamas. You cannot support Hamas. Hamas, I've been there. I've worked alongside Hamas. I've seen what they do. I understand their psyche. And there is no negotiation in Hamas. However, Hamas is not representative of the whole community within inside of Palestine or within inside of Gaza. The normal person in Gaza just wants a normal life, just wants to crack on, just wants their food and supplies to come in and come and go, just wants to earn a living, just wants to try and live with a relative amount of safety and peace. But they're not getting that because the minute they say anything, they're lobbed off a building, they're not listened to. And the state of Gaza as it is right now is completely controlled by people who haven't got the interests of the normal person in their heart. Right, we'll crack on as planned, but I'm going to tell you now, looking at the mainstream media stuff, I don't know where they're coming from all the time. I know where I'm coming from because I've been there, seen it and done it. So I'm going to try and interject some of my personal experience into this because if I don't feel like people out there are getting the truth.
The Prime Minister has presented Israel with an ultimatum tonight. If it fails to meet certain conditions to end the suffering in Gaza, Britain will recognise a Palestinian state in September.
I mean, that on its own seems to be a threat to me. There's so many variables to this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and for 1 minute condone what either side is doing, all right? But it's the normal people that are trapped within this who haven't even got a say who are suffering, all right? I don't want to see thousands of people dying. I don't want to see children dying. I don't want to see suffering. But I do understand whilst people like Hamas could possibly be recognised as part of Palestine being recognised, that would strengthen their position to the point where they're almost justifying what they're doing, which, if they're left unattended, will be attacking Israel, hammer and tongue. The Israelis, on the same score of things, I don't condone what they're doing by starving people, which is exactly how we're seeing it unfold. But at the same time, I realise that if Hamas aren't held by their neck, they'll continue doing what they're doing. It is an extremely difficultly balanced predicament that we have going on there. And as I've said 100 times before, you definitely need the brain of a small planet to even start to understand what is going on.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
I get what he's trying to do. But what you can't do is recognise Hamas. And if Hamas feel they're being recognised by Palestine being recognised, you're in a hiding to nothing, especially from the Israeli point of view. How you sort this one out is, well, comments below. Let me know what you think, please.
And this includes allowing the UN to restart the supply of aid and making clear that there will be no annexations in the West Bank.
The aid has to get through. There has to be a solution to getting the normal person fed and to stop people from dying. That goes without saying for me. And however it's done, it should be the priority. If you want to argue out the rest of it, then you carry on arguing, do you know what I mean? But don't let the normal person suffer because it's wrong.
There should be a separate Palestinian state.
I do think there should be a two-state solution. Yes, I do think there should be. This is something that I've always believed, but not with Hamas in charge. They are terrorists.
Exactly that. A two-state solution. Yes, we'd love that. We'd love to have two amicable states working towards a peace and a reconciliation even in time. But right now, you've got Hamas with everybody else within that strip. They've got their hands around their throats. And you've got the Israelis who can't afford to let their grip go from Hamas because you saw what happened at that concert. You know, they'll fly over your border and smash your face in. All right, and that's exactly what they did.
Terrorists. They are terrorizing their population. If you allow a state to be created before Hamas is eradicated, you are incubating a new terrorist state. That should not be allowed. That is not safe for the people of Israel, and it is not safe for the rest of the world.
So the question is, how do you deal with Hamas without everybody suffering? And when you've sort of like annexed a small area, it's not even a large area as Gaza is, there's going to be some sort of suffering for everybody. And that's wrong. You can't. Most people, and I've been there. Look, I've been there. I'm speaking from the heart here. I've been there. I've met people who live within those walls and within the restrictions of the Gaza Strip. There's nowhere for them to run. And if they voice their opinions openly, they'll be crushed like ants. All right? So it's extremely difficult. So I would say that the majority of people in there want nothing to do with terrorism, want nothing to do with the way Hamas conduct business, but have got no choice.
But who would run Gaza then, or who would run Palestine if there was to be a separate state?
Well, there were other people who ran the Palestinian territories before. Hamas won an election.
There were Abbas, the Palestinian Guard. You know, there have been other people who've stepped up to the plate. In fact, when I was there was peace. There was borders that were open, and we worked extensively on the Carney project, which was doing exactly what they're trying to do now. Let goods come in and out, be recognised, and do it in such a way that everybody feels safe. And that's what we achieved. And as soon as we achieved it, hey, guess what? Hamas stepped up, took over the strip, murdered everybody I'd trained personally, okay? Murdered them all, and actually sent me a little video showing me their handiwork and put it to music. Thanks, Hamas. You're really nice people, aren't you? Not.
And then after that, there were no more elections. That's been part of the problem.
That is true, but if there was an election, I mean, say in 6 months' time, that it's all...
You know, don't forget President Abbas was working with the likes of Condoleezza Rice from America. Steps were being made. Progression was going forwards. People were listening. People were talking. And that's not how Hamas do business. Hamas are a totalitarian state which will not recognise anything other than their aims, objectives and ideals. And that's the way it is. And that's what you're trying to deal with. And that's what we can't afford to happen. Otherwise, as she quite rightly states, we'll just incubate a terrorist state, which can't be incubated. We don't want that.
We'll calm down, and there is a ceasefire, and there is an election in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. And Hamas put up candidates. I mean, what if they won?
Well,
they would have a democratic mandate again.
Well, they can't lose. Because you can't say that those votes are going to be rigged. You can't say that those votes aren't going to be tampered with in some way. And the other thing is, you can't just turn up at that polling station and put your cross in whatever box you want. Because 9 times out of 10, somebody will be going, not having that, mate. I'll tell you what, no. That's the way that these people run. Do you know what I mean? Nobody threw Idi Amin out of power until they had a complete military coup which took him down. All right? Idi Amin was a dictator. And Hamas are doing a dictator's work. That's how they operate. They don't give you a choice. You do what you're told. And it's such a small place, there's not much you can do about it.
Well, here we are. And this is why, until Hamas is eradicated, this is not a viable solution.
Well, the government has previously said that recognition of a Palestinian state should come at a point when it can have maximum impact. And today, experts backed by the UN said that the worst-case scenario of famine is playing out in Gaza.
Watine is 3 months old, a child of a Gaza that...
I mean, this is terrible, and nobody wants to see this at all. And this is what really needs to be sorted out. But all the time, Hamas has got their grip around people's necks. It can't happen.
Starving. She now weighs less than when she was born. She's weak and tired, her fragile body, skin and bones. Doctors say she's suffering from severe acute malnutrition because of a lack of milk. Yasmin, her mother, is unable to breastfeed every day, herself struggling with hunger. Israel doesn't
Horrendous. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
allow international media, including the BBC, into Gaza. This interview was carried out by a trusted local freelancer working for us.
If I eat, then I have milk for her. But if I don't, there is no milk. There is nothing to drink. There is no food in Gaza.
Some help is coming in. More aid was airdropped today, and supplies are also entering by land. But the UN says Israel is letting in just a fraction of what is needed. In parts of Gaza, this is what
I mean, there needs to be a way that you can get this aid in, and still maintain your security. Because that's what Israel are basically saying. We can't allow anybody in and out because our security is going to be compromised. And we've seen what happens when their security is compromised. People fly over the fence and start murdering people and all those atrocities are going on. So there needs to be a way. Somebody needs to step up and go, right, I'll tell you what we'll do here. This is how we do it. I don't have the answers. Maybe you've got the answers. Put them down there. It's an extremely difficult thing to try and negotiate. It needs negotiating. But, on a world forum, it's a big fat fail across the board, isn't it?
aid looks like. Desperate crowds stopping convoys to grab whatever they can find. This is a man-made crisis. The UN, aid agencies, and even some of Israel's allies have put the blame on Israeli policies, something that Israel denies. There was another warning today from a UN-backed report on hunger, the worst-case scenario of famine.
I'm going to throw this out there as well, right? I'm going to throw this out there. I know many people on both sides of the border here, all right? And a lot of people sat there in Israel would be saying to themselves, I don't want to see that happening, all right? I'm telling you that now, all right? People are, they're not completely inhumane. At the very top level of both sides, there's people being obstructive. And those are the ones that need to be targeted, and those are the ones that need to be brought to course, and those are the ones that need to be basically told this is going to happen somehow. I don't know how that happens, all right? But that's what needs to happen, all right? Because it's the normal people who are suffering. The people who just want to go about their daily business, who just want to earn a crust, who just want to live a life, and just want to do the best they can within the short time they've got on this planet. Those are the people who are suffering.
It's playing out in Gaza.
It's clearly a disaster is unfolding in front of our eyes, in front of our television screens. This is not a warning. This is a call to action. This is unlike anything we have seen in this century.
In Jerusalem, the Israeli foreign minister invited international journalists for a briefing.
Do you accept that there is starvation in Gaza?
First of all, it is clear that after almost 2 years of war, the situation is tough. But there is a lie, and the lie is the starvation policies which the international media, including BBC, is cooperating with. And
so you're saying President Trump is lying?
Don't disturb me. You asked. I respect that, and now it's my turn to answer your question.
He didn't really answer it, but went on to say,
But he's not answering the question, is he? With all due respect to him, he's not answering the question. Are people starving in Gaza? Yes or no? It's a 50-50 question, isn't it? It's a yes or no. The answer quite clearly is yes. And he's now talking about policy. Are you blaming us for the starvation? Look, that wasn't the question. Are people starving? Answer that one first, and then answer the question. I'll call it when I see it. I don't give a shit whose side you're on.
that Israel was witnessing a distorted campaign of international pressure. Help is still not reaching everyone who needs it in Gaza, and many more are likely to die.
Mate, I'm telling you now, this is going to be proper hard. Okay, we've just seen the headlines, but here's what it really means from where I sit. Starmer's announcement isn't just a policy pivot, it's a seismic shift in tone. Britain is now saying, enough, recognise Palestine unless Israel changes its course. Ceasefire, open Gaza to aid, stop spreading settlements. That commitment isn't symbolic, it hits like a threat. The clock is ticking. September, UN General Assembly. But this isn't happening in a vacuum. Gaza is dying, according to UN-backed IPC data. Famine levels have been reached. Every person in Gaza is now acutely food insecure, and hundreds have died, including dozens of children. Rights groups and the United Nations describe this as man-made, pointing fingers squarely at Israel's blockade and military restrictions. International law experts and NGOs warn that the siege amounts to collective punishment, explicitly prohibited under the 4th Geneva Convention. Even the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, alleging starvation used as a method of warfare. But they've turned their narrative into a war of words. Netanyahu's government denies accusations and blames Hamas. United Nations agency even claims critics are spreading misinformation. Meanwhile, legal experts in the UK warn Starmer recognising Palestine could violate international law because Gaza lacks a unified functioning state, per Montevideo criteria. Here's the power play. By setting conditions for recognition, aid ceasefire, no annexation, Starmer wields statecraft as leverage. Critics say he's rewarding Hamas. Supporters say it's moral leadership. Israel hostage families called it a gift to terror. You'd need a brain like a small planet to even start working that lot out. So who takes charge in Palestine? Starmer's gamble is that diplomatic pressure can force Israel's hand or carve a space for Palestinian political legitimacy. But internally, Hamas governs Gaza. The Palestinian Authority governs parts of the West Bank. Recognition under present chaos is more declarative than practical. It doesn't work for the people. The people aren't getting a say. They're being told internally what they'll do, and they have Hamas's hands around their throats the whole time. This is where politics ends and moral accountability begins. Starmer has drawn a line. If Gaza collapses into mass starvation, which nobody wants to see under blockade, if aid is choked off and children die, recognition is coming. And the message lands hard, not just in Gaza or London, but across international bodies too. But the real question isn't about declarations. It's about urgency. Can recognition be more than words? Can it change policy before more children starve? Can it shift power structures in the territories or just fuel further entrenchment? The extremities of this will push for the worst outcome because that seems to be how they have the most impact. Until the world steps in, recognises deed by name and treats famine as a weapon, not just collateral damage, this story will only get worse. And rights without enforcement are just lip service. It's a toothless tiger. And if you want to hear the conversations that we obviously can't discuss openly on here, then come on, join our membership. Just 16 pence a day and you get the lot belt fed on Force TV Plus on our YouTube channel.